Okay, so here's my question to you. Would you be interested in learning the two most common obstacles that I see as a coach and as a hypnotherapist when people are coming to me to work with me that are almost universally present, that get in the way and stop people from unlocking their ability to heal and transform and kind of move forward and step into their best life? If you'd be interested in learning what these obstacles are, then please watch on. This video is for you. If not, then you may want to switch off because that's what we're going to be talking about. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so before we go ahead and dive into setting up the context and talking about these major obstacles here, I wanted to just kind of take a moment and say a warm hello and welcome back to anyone who's a return viewer and let you know that I really appreciate you. And I realize I haven't uploaded in about a week or so, and that I have a lot of content on the way here that I think you're really going to love, starting with today's video. I really do think this is going to be, for a lot of you, a really important piece of information. And from my point of view, perhaps closer to the center of the heart of the work of healing and transformation. So please watch this video if it at all resonates with you. If you are a new viewer, you've never seen me before, I just want to take a moment, give you the bumper sticker version of my whole spiel, which is that my name is Dave. I'm a coach and a hypnotherapist. My specialty as a coach and a hypnotherapist is transformational coaching. I like to do the deep kind of brain rewiring, deep shifting of stuff with people, much more than, say, the life coaching, goals-oriented kind of, optimal performance kind of thing. And in specific, I like to work with people around their psychedelic work. So I like to support people with prep work, transformational integration work, and that kind of branches off on this channel into all the kind of correlated topics, whether that's, understanding therapy or understanding, trauma, understanding different aspects of psychedelics and psychedelic work, spirituality, personal development, psychology, theory, et cetera, et cetera. So if that's your bag, you're in the right place. And if not, then, if this still resonates, watch on. And if this doesn't resonate, then why are you still watching the video? Okay, anyways, let's go ahead and get into the context here and set up why I'm talking about these obstacles. Okay, this is really important for you to understand. So what I'm about to share here is born out of my own direct experience and observation in combination with my ongoing study of different forms of therapy and psychology so that I can better understand myself and my clients and people as a whole and kind of what's going on when we need healing, right? So this is kind of my area of nerding out, of my area of really always reading and researching and learning and studying and practicing. And as a coach, when people come to me, there's a very, very common set of issues that almost always presents an obstacle that, if we don't get handled first, tends to get in the way of the person's ability to really move and change the elements of themselves in a way to start to create healing or transformation or growth. So these are kind of like the blocks or the knots or the obstacle in the way for most people. Now, this is not only born out of my own observation, my own experience, out of repetition of coaching a lot of people. This is also, as I compare notes with my peers, when I talk to people who are, therapists working in their other therapy, worlds, or I talk to other hypnotherapists or other coaches, we're all kind of seeing the same thing. And when we compare notes and we really get honest about what's there and when things don't really go well in a session, why they don't go well, what tends to be the problem or the place where a person gets hung up or stuck, these two things are the most common things that we see. So I wanted to share this with you so that you know what to look for and how to orient your attention as you're starting to work with yourself. And if you're wondering, why can't I heal? Why can't I change? Why can't I grow? Why can't I transform? What's the block in the way? I sense there's a block here, but I don't know what it is. And maybe you feel frustrated or shamed or upset about that, or discouraged or any of that. I wanted to give you this information so that you have a much clearer sense of the territory. I will have some commentary at the end, but let's just kind of wrap it there with the context, start to get into what these two major obstacles are so that you can start to understand, what maybe the first order of business is when it comes to your personal transformation path. So let's talk about it. Okay, the first obstacle, and probably by far the most common, the most universal, the most predictably gonna be their thing for the vast majority of people I interact with, is some flavor of what I would describe as self-judgment. Now, a lot of other people might use other terms, like shame or guilt, embarrassment, avoidance, right? I think all of these are different flavors really of self-judgment, which is that generally speaking, when someone comes to me to work with me and they want to heal, they want to rewire their brain, they want to up level, they want to transform, they want to change their life for the better, almost always they're coming in with, I have this problem, Dave, and I'm so upset with myself about having this problem, and that might take flavors like, I hate myself for this. I'm so ashamed of this. I can't believe this is still an issue in my life. I'm, hopeless about changing this. I'm depressed about the presence of this problem. There's some form of self-judgment about having the issue in the first place. And this seems weird. This is a little bit of a counterintuitive dynamic here. But what I want to start to tune you into first of all, is just what these obstacles are. Later in this video, we'll talk about what the solution to these problems are. And I'm not fucking around here. This is not some fluffy, listicle video. This is the real heart of the fucking work. This is the key that unlocks the movement and the healing that you want in your life for most people. Okay. If this is present, if this is all sorted out, then it becomes so much easier to start to move things and shift things and heal things for yourself. So the number one thing that I most commonly see is this flavor of self-judgment. Now, there's a lot in that I could explain and describe, but let's just say that when we're in self-judgment, of, whether it's shame or guilt or, just depression or hopelessness or whatever it is about having the issue. What's going on there is we are essentially in some sort of like a tug of war internally. We are in conflict with ourselves. There is inner conflict or polarization between two aspects of ourselves. Those aspects generally being the part of us that wants to heal, that wants to grow, that is current, that is present now, that sees the possibility or wants something better for ourselves, and the part of us that maybe is holding on to the problem or doesn't know how to let go of the problem or is, first, connected to the problem. And these two aspects of us, if they're polarized, there's no room for change. There's no room to move your system when your system is putting on the brakes because there's a problem present, right? Think about that for a second. If you're trying to move yourself, but your system's locking up and it's putting on the brakes every time you try to move yourself, the first thing you need to do is get your system to stop putting on the brakes. And the way you do that is by resolving this internal polarization with yourself. So you have to get out of judging yourself. You have to get out of self-judgment. Now, for some people, that sounds like an impossible task. For others, that makes a lot of sense. And it's like, okay, yeah, I can do that. For others, there's kind of a learning curve involved with how to get outside of self-judgment. Unfortunately, in our cultures and our modern societies, judging ourselves is implicitly supported and encouraged, right? So we live in a world where and a culture where more often than not, self-judgment is implicitly assumed to be the right way to relate to ourselves and motivate ourselves to be the best version of ourselves. But usually all that does is, again, polarize and create conflict, which creates kind of deadlock or gridlock, which stops anything from changing or moving. The way I think about this a lot is kind of like a Chinese finger trap. So I don't know if you guys have seen these Chinese finger traps where you kind of put your finger on one side, you put your finger on the other side, and you put them in together, and it's kind of this basket woven thing that wraps around your fingers. And as you pull them apart to try to get free, it tightens and locks your fingers into place. The tighter you pull, the more it locks down on your fingers, and you can't get your fingers out, right? And this is generally how most of us go through life when it comes to our problems and trying to, grow and evolve. We're either totally ignoring them altogether, or if we're aware of our problems and we want to change them, we're in this tug of war struggle that the more we struggle, the tighter it gets, right? So the trick here is we have to, in the same way that it's counterintuitive to push your fingers in to loosen up the basket to be able to pull them out, it's the same thing with working with yourself. You have to be able to undo self-judgment. You have to get into a place where you can have compassion and forgiveness and understanding and insight, patience, curiosity, and generally relate to the part of you with the problem in this much softer, more open, more accepting way that counterintuitively loosens up the hold around the problem and allows you to start to be able to move it or change it. Right? So I can explain how and why that works in more depth and detail, but I wanted just to start to give you a sense of how this works. So this is the number one obstacle that I see more often than not. This is most people. This is most of us. Occasionally I meet someone who doesn't have this issue where they're just like, yeah, I have this problem. I don't know how to change it. I don't know how to move it, but I accept this part of myself. I can meet this part of myself with love. There's not a lot of, angst or anger or pain or fear or resistance around me having the issue. I just don't know what to do to resolve it, right? And so generally those people get big results really quick. But for most people, when they come to me, again, it's this kind of like, I really hate that I have this issue. I really want to let it go, but it's the judgment of having the issue in the first place that keeps it all locked in place. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense here. Again, there's a bigger dynamic here that I'll probably be explaining in more videos because I do feel that this is, for a lot of people, at the heart of the work, certainly at the heart of the beginning of the work. But I just want to kind of set that up for you. So hopefully that makes sense. If not, please do leave a question or comment down below in the comment section. I'm always happy to engage sincere and genuine questions, try to clarify if perhaps something wasn't clear about that here. Okay, let's talk about the second one. Okay, so the second obstacle in the way for most people really does tie into the first one because, generally speaking, we are a whole nervous system, we're a whole human being, and things are interconnected inside of us. So it makes sense that this would be tightly connected to the first one. But it's essentially some flavor of fear of our own internal experience, right? So this might be fear of our emotions. This might be fear of being overwhelmed, fear of our own unconscious mind, fear of what's going to come up if I start, going there and exploring this kind of stuff, et cetera, et cetera. Some sort of a sense of fear of the territory of healing that puts us in a place of wanting to be kind of avoidant, kind of put it off, procrastinate it, shove it away, try to suppress it, repress it. I'm sure you know what I mean, because this is most of us, right? This is another major obstacle, though, because if you can't engage the content of your own internal experience, obviously, first of all, you can't move it or change it if you're not aware of it or oriented towards it. That's just pretty obvious, right? But also, you miss out on all the learning, on all the, growth, all the insight, and really you miss out on all the beauty that's embedded, all the wisdom and the resources and the bliss and the joy and the aliveness and the fulfillment that's also embedded inside of these aspects of you that you've kind of walled off or that you're avoiding, right? So there's a lot there that if we're afraid of our own internal experience, we end up missing out on that is so beautiful and rewarding and fulfilling and profound. I really can't emphasize this enough. And so this is another piece here where, yeah, I can understand, of course, fear of the unknown is a very natural fear. We all experience it. But ultimately, we have to be willing to feel the feelings, see what needs seeing, understand what needs understanding, and accept and work with what's already present inside of us in order to begin to change it. Again, as far as I'm concerned, these two obstacles are the biggest, most common blocks that I see for most people. And it really is the turning around of both of these dynamics that begins to unlock your ability to move yourself and remold yourself and rewire yourself and change yourself and have big breakthroughs. So let's talk about that a little bit more here, and then we'll go ahead and wrap the video. Okay, I can't believe that I forgot to mention the solution at the end of the last clip here. But anyways, let's talk about the solution really quick. Before I go ahead and give you what the solution to these two obstacles are, I want to just acknowledge really quick that it feels a little weird to me to be talking about something that's actually very profound and very deep and is really an important key insight. This is what I'm about to share here is a life-changing piece of information for a lot of us, right? But yet I'm sharing it here in this kind of like bullet pointed kind of YouTube video where I'm giving little Cliff Notes versions of things with kind of a quick little extrapolation about each of these. And it feels, quite frankly, a little bizarre to be bullet pointing something that is so deep, okay? But here we are, and I want to give you the information. So please understand that when I say this, that there's a lot more that could be said about it, and there's actually a lot to it. Okay, so don't be dismissive or think that just because this is in a shorter video and a bullet pointed form that this isn't a deep point. This is one of the deepest fucking things I could possibly say to anybody. Okay, here's the solution. The solution is relating to yourself through the lens or through the relational filter of secure attachment. Let me say that again. Relating to ourselves, relating to your internal experience, relating to the parts of you that are holding pain or fear or holding onto the issues through the lens of secure attachment. This, in my mind, is step number one to make sure that you have in place, that any of us have in place, when a client comes to me to work with me. This is what I'm looking for first. Do they have a secure internal relationship with themselves? Or are they relating to themselves in some sort of an insecure attachment form, which would be, either anxious attachment or avoidant attachment or disorganized attachment, or different flavors of that. I will say, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, you're not familiar with attachment theory, I'll explain a little bit of it in just a moment here, but it's really a huge, deep topic worthy of its own channel. I'm sure there are tons of channels out here on YouTube about this very topic of attachment theory. So what is attachment theory? Attachment theory, in a nutshell, is this psychological theory, developmental psychological theory that explores how our sense of relationships and connection is wired into our brain from early on, from 0 to about 3 or 4 is really the major chunk of developmental attachment stuff. There's stuff that kind of goes up to about 6 or 7, they say, but really the core pieces here usually are between 0 to 3. Attachment theory is well studied. There's a lot of information about it. It's an important key cornerstone of psychology and understanding how to work with yourself and work with other people and understanding relationships and, how we fit with each other in the world, why people's behavior is the way it is. It's a super deep topic. Long story short, with attachment theory, there is essentially a healthy form of attachment, which is called secure attachment. And there are 3 essentially unhealthy forms of attachment, which would be avoidant, anxious, and disorganized. Generally speaking, most people, it's said that, half the population is secure. I don't think that's really true. I think it's much smaller than that, or at least my biased point of view from the people I interact with and I see, whether it's out in the world or whether it's the clients that come to me who want help and support. Almost universally, there's some unhealthy attachment stuff there to clean up, right? So I don't expect you to have this all understood right away. What I want you to understand is that there is a healthy form of relating that is central to how we heal, right? That in order to heal properly, in order to send the safety signals to your nervous system to help it relax and open up and begin to make the possibility to move things and shift things, this piece of secure attachment needs to be there at a nervous system level. We need to feel safe. It's pretty obvious, right? And so in traditional therapy, if you go to see a therapist, part of the therapist's job is to create that safe relational space where you're not judged, you're not going to be like abandoned or kicked out or shamed or manipulated, and you can be totally yourself in order to be able to move things or change things. I mean, we all kind of implicitly know that, right? So that same condition needs to be what I'm saying in order to unlock these obstacles and move them out of the way. That same condition of secure attachment with ourselves needs to be in place internally. In other words, we need to start relating to ourselves through this filter of secure attachment. Now, there's a lot more I could say about that, and I understand all the objections that might come up with that, including, but I don't know how. I've never had secure attachment. I don't feel secure attachment. How do I relate to myself that way when I have insecure attachment? Da, 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 da. I get it. There's a bunch of questions, and it's a bigger conversation, quite frankly. But this is the piece. This is the piece you need in place to create the safety in your nervous system to be able to create lasting change. This is also the piece that, when it's not there, is going to be reflected in your psychedelic sessions in terms of difficult experiences, whether that's, overwhelm and stress, whether that's dissociation, whether that's kind of like looping on some sort of weird paranoid thought, which is very common. All of this stuff hinges around not feeling safe. And feeling safe boils down to not having a sense of secure attachment, of feeling relationally contained and connected to in a way that really allows our nervous system to relax into its most open, natural way of being. So this is the thing you need first: secure attachment with yourself. I'll be talking about it more. Again, this is the heart of the work. And I will say, before we go ahead and wrap the video here, in my mind, for some of you, what I'm sharing here is the whole fucking work. For some of you, if you can learn secure relating to yourself, secure attachment with yourself, and implement that into your self-relationship, it will heal and transform you and leave you feeling the way you want to feel. And your work will largely be, it's never done, but it'll be largely in the place you want it to be. The way you feel in your body, the way you feel in your life, the way you feel in your relationships, everything will click into place in the best way. For others of you, this is the thing that unlocks the obstacles, that makes it possible for whatever the rest of the work that you need to do is, right? So for some of us, who maybe have a lot of trauma to offload and a lot of stuff to process through and a lot of rewiring to do and a lot of like updating and shifting core beliefs and things like that, all of that hinges on your ability to relate to your entire internal experience through this lens of secure attachment. If you can't do that, this is a core skill to learn for a lot of us. I'm not expecting you to know this off the bat. This is also something that if it's really hard for you, perhaps that's something that, a therapist can do with you and kind of model for you and support you through. And as you heal, this becomes more and more possible for you. So don't feel hopeless if you're like, well, that's going to be impossible for me. You'd be surprised. But this is learnable. This is a skill. This is something that we actually intuitively deeply know in our nervous systems, and that we have models of, if not in our own lives, certainly in society around us, in other types of relationships. I'll be talking about this more, again, at depth. I'm actually thinking about making a course around this particular content. But I want to just kind of, wrap this, and then I'll summarize a little bit here, and we'll call it done. So not only is this important for just generally healing and generally, unlocking the obstacles and moving into the ability to change things for yourself, this is also deeply important if you intend on doing psychedelics. Because what happens in a psychedelic session largely is that, especially up front when there's healing work to do and it's in a therapeutic context and we've got a lot of stuff that's kind of tends to come up every time we take psychedelics, what's going to come up is the amplification of all these, different layers of fear and feeling and emotion and memories and, things that are unresolved, things we're confused about, unconscious expression of experiences as maybe visions or as body sensations or as, looping on something over and over, this kind of stuff, right? Generally speaking, all of that gets amplified. And if we are able to relate to that through this lens of secure attachment, then we are able to contain it, hold it, love it, support it, and allow and send the safety signals to our nervous system to begin to move it and shift it. This is how things move. Without that safety signal in place, this is generally when things just feel overwhelming, confusing, and we kind of stay stuck in a difficult experience. So this is the primary tool for navigating your internal reality, both in an altered state of consciousness and in default consciousness. So I hope that makes sense. Let me summarize this, and then we'll call it done for now. Much love to you all, and I hope you've been enjoying this. Let's talk about it. I don't know why I just said let's talk about it. It's one of these kind of unconscious habits of making YouTube videos and still getting over being camera shy and nervous a little bit, where sometimes I'll say something that's a little bit of a non sequitur. It doesn't quite make sense in context to everything else. Anyways, let me summarize this for you all, and then we can kind of call it a video, and I'll let you guys kind of sit with everything I just shared. So essentially, what I notice as a coach and a hypnotherapist is that generally speaking, when a person comes to me to heal, what determines if things move for them or not successfully is the degree to which they are able to relate to their own internal experience through this lens of secure attachment. Sometimes they need coaching into that. Sometimes that's easy to discover or kind of get the feel for. Sometimes that's incredibly hard or just not going to work. Generally speaking, the two obstacles that I see in the way for most people are some flavor of self-judgment. So this is internal polarization or internal resistance. You could think of this as shame, guilt, fear, avoidance, disappointment in ourselves, et cetera, or some form of kind of feeling uncomfortable, afraid, overwhelmed, uncertain about our own internal experience and what's going to come up as we start to process. So the antidote to both of those, again, is this secure relational frame that sends these safety signals to the nervous system that lets your nervous system know, I'm here, I'm listening, I've got you, I care, I'm not going to ignore you, I'm not going to judge myself for having these feelings, I'm present with this, I'm game to tune in and connect. Right? So as we send these safe connection signals to ourselves, that gets felt throughout the nervous system, and that creates the conditions that makes it much more easy to start to move things and heal things. So that's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope this makes sense to you. Again, if you have any questions, comments, do leave them down below. I always love to see interaction from the audience here. And I've got tons more content on the way for you guys. And I, again, deeply appreciate all of you. I hope you're doing well out there. And I'll see you guys soon. Take care.